This is it's really interesting to me how this story is being covered by the various media. The fact that there is nuclear waste, thousands of tons of nuclear waste on the top of these 6 reactors at Daiichi, that General Electric, when they designed these things, and 3 of their engineers quit over this, these GE Mark I reactors. There's also either 32 or 36 of them in the United States. I've heard both numbers. But they're in the United States as well. The geniuses who designed these things said, let's put the nuclear waste, 15 stories up above the nuclear reactor. That way, when the nuclear reactor uses up its fuel, we can take the spent fuel out and just lift it up and shove it over into the pool. And, it doesn't have to leave the reactor area. And because it's just spent nuclear waste, it needs to be covered with water and keep cool so it doesn't catch on fire and burn and turn into a giant dirty bomb. But because it's just nuclear waste, let's not put any kind of hardened top on it. Let's just put a roof like a Quonset hut on the top of these things. Now, I have been accused in the past of being a guy who embraces conspiracy theories. I helped write a book about the JFK assassination and the Martin Luther King assassination and peripherally Bobby Kennedy's assassination. And we've had David Ray Griffin on the show, and I'm not afraid to talk about 9/11 and stuff like that. But here's a conspiracy theory that I think is really solid. I think it's really solid. And that is that the phrase nuclear waste is not being used by any of the media. Now, I can understand NBC. Apparently, they're still partially owned by General Electric, who built this plant, that they wouldn't talk about nuclear waste, or not very much. That they would talk about things like spent fuel. Nobody knows what the hell spent fuel is. It's nuclear waste. The reason nobody wants to use this phrase, nuclear waste, nobody wants to talk about the fact that there are thousands of tons of nuclear waste on top of these Mark I General Electric reactors all over the world, is because the Achilles heel, the fatal flaw of nuclear power, is nuclear waste. Oh, well, we can put it in glass and put it in Yucca Mountain. Not so fast. There were reasons why people were opposed to Yucca Mountain, and it wasn't just because it was in their backyard. It pretty much wasn't in anybody's backyard. It's a pretty remote area, but beyond that, to think that something that is, plutonium, it's a half-life of, what, 250,000 years? And that's to decay to half its strength, the most toxic substance on Earth, and it is one of the byproducts of nuclear fission, of just plain old generic boiling water nuclear reactors. This nuclear waste contains cesium and strontium and plutonium. To think that there is such a thing as a geological formation that is going to be stable for hundreds of millions of years is impossible. It's inconceivable. What we're doing is we're putting time bombs around the planet. Time bombs that may not go off in our children's generation or our children's children's generation. They may go off in a generation thousands of years from now when people don't even, look, think, or behave like us. When there's been some sort of evolutionary leap, who knows, who can imagine? I mean, you look back at how different human societies were just 30,000 years ago, 20,000 years before the agricultural revolution, when there were just a few tens of millions of humans on this planet. Maybe 100 million or so at the most. And you look back at how different their cultures, their societies, their languages, their way of life are just in 30,000 years from then, or 20,000, or 10,000 years from then until now. And you think 30,000 years from now there's not going to be something different? That it's going to be just like it is right now, and we're going to have politicians sitting around going, yeah, we'll take more money from the nuclear power industry, and just don't worry, just don't go near that Yucca Mountain place. And come on. The Achilles heel of nuclear power is nuclear waste. And it is nuclear waste that is on top of these nuclear power plants. Anywhere from 1 or 2 loads of spent fuel, e.g., aka nuclear waste, anywhere from 1 or 2 loads to up to 8 loads. In other words, 8 times as much as in the reactor core. It's sitting on top. It's in these 45-foot deep pools of water. The top 30 feet is water. The bottom 15 feet is the nuclear waste. And that water, since the cooling has shut down, it's not circulating any longer. That water is getting really, really hot and starting to boil off. And as it boils off, if you've ever seen a pot of water boil for a long, long time or burned a pan, as it boils off, the water levels get lower and lower and lower. And when those water levels get down to the point where that nuclear waste is exposed to the air, it will begin to burn. And when it burns, it will, they call it, it's going to combust. It's going to oxidize. I mean, they use all these big words. It's going to burn and blow radiation into the atmosphere.